So we'll start our session today with discussing the lab. Now, before we discuss the lab, a lot of you have personally contacted all three of us and faculty as well that you guys have been having trouble with a lot of the libraries being used in the challenges. And one of them, like to begin with, is NumPy. So this is probably one of the most popular libraries out there. A lot of other libraries have been used as well, like NumPy, Pandas, scikit-learn, and even Matplotlib. So I mean, obviously, you can't expect the faculty to teach you these libraries. So you can just sort of go out there and learn them on your own. But just for this session, we'll start today with learning NumPy, like just a precursor to it. Maybe not everything, but like just the basics. So the first question that comes to your mind is, why are we using NumPy? So it's
Anand,
like,
could you zoom little bit because it's
yes,
not
yes, of
visible.
course.
Yeah.
So like in Python, when you make an array, it's usually like this, right? So why do you need NumPy to make an array? If I use, let me use import NumPy as NP. This is the most popular sort of scheme. Everyone imports NumPy as NP. Like it's just how it is. Like you can import it as anything. You can import it as FP if you want to, but NP is pretty popular. So why do we need a NumPy array? Like I can make a NumPy array like this. Wait, change the name, and I'll do this. So now we have a NumPy array. Why do we need this NumPy array is the question. Why can't we just use this array? So we'll use a basic program here, which basically takes two arrays, right, of size. This is the size, and this is the first array, this is the second array. And we'll try to add these arrays first using like plain vanilla Python, like Python arrays, and then we'll try to, like, this is the code for the Python array, and this is the code for the NumPy array. Then we'll compare the runtimes and see like which one is quicker, and then we'll be able to sort of figure out why we're using it. So as you can see, after running this code, we find out that the Python list took this much time to add these two arrays, and NumPy took, how much is it? Like I think it's a fraction of what the Python list took. It's like 1/9 almost. So there is obviously a significant difference here, and that is one reason why we use NumPy. And one thing you might ask yourself is, why is NumPy so fast? Like, what's the difference between NumPy and a normal Python array? So NumPy is basically built on C, and as we all know, we have experienced it ourselves in I think the OS course, that C is pretty fast because it's like, it's pretty bare bones. So NumPy basically stores a homogeneous array. Like this array you see right here, the data type is sort of specified. Like अगर ये int है तो ये int ही store करेगा. But the Python array meanwhile stores references to objects. I mean, you can store anything in a Python array. Like you can, store an int and a string and like literally anything. It can be non-homogeneous. So that's why it stores the reference to an object, and then the Python tries to interpret कि अच्छा ये string है या फिर ये int है. So it takes time to do that. NumPy doesn't take time to do that, so it's faster. Now we'll move on to the basics, which is how
Just
we
to add,
basically create.
just to add on
Yes.
to that, another reason why NumPy is faster, because the operations defined on NumPy are actually vectorized. That means that they run in parallel, whereas in a simple list of Python, all the operations happen sequentially. So that's another major reason why the operations in NumPy are way faster than that on lists.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to add on the top of it. Like
Yes, sir.
once Pradyum is saying vectorized, what exactly meaning of vectorized here? So for example, you have to perform a multiplication of two matrix, that is 3 by 3. Both matrices are 3 by 3. So in short, you have to do how many multiplication in total? You have to do, first you will take first row, then multiply with the first column, then first row multiply with the second column, then first row multiply with the third column. Similarly, you will take second row and do the repetition. So in general, when you write this code in non-vectorized format, you are doing simple, you are taking two loops and you iterate over and you will get a output. But if you go in depth, and you will find, if you multiply first row and first column, there is no dependency to multiply first row and second column. Again, there is no dependency to multiply first row and third column. It means if you have good enough, good amount of computation, let's do all these 9 multiplication and addition together. So that will make your task parallel, and that is the reason NumPy is making multiplication and all those things much faster, because they are doing parallelism in their internal codes. Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, so as pointed out, that is also a very important case where, yeah, so like the matrix multiplications happen in parallel. I think we'll see that in a bit. So this is like just a way of sort of defining arrays. And yeah, these are basically three arrays. So the first one is basically like an integer, like an array of integers, which of size 6, and the second one is 3 cross 4. Now this can be thought of like as a matrix, two-dimensional array, and then the third one is basically a three-dimensional array. So you can think of it as like 4 rows, 5 columns, and then like just stack 3 of the same of them like together, like one after the other, like plates. That becomes easy to visualize that way. So it has the NumPy arrays have attributes. Now this is not an object, like so there's this attribute called ndim. It basically tells us about the number of dimensions. So we'll take the third array x3, which is a three-dimensional array, and we'll try to print the number of dimensions it has. And then next we'll try to print its shape, and then after that we'll try to print its size. Let's see what happens. So yeah, it has shown us correctly that it has the dimension is 3, and it's the shape is 3 comma 4 comma 5, which is what it was when we defined it, and the size is 60. So yeah, and if we write like this, like as an object, it will throw an error because it's not an object, it's an attribute. We need to take care of that. So, and then we'll move on to array indexing, which is like the single elements are accessed just like a normal Python array. So like if x1 is this NumPy array, then we can just basically access any index like like this. So we want to access the third index, so it's easily accessible. And if we want the first 5 elements, we can basically do this, right? It's pretty simple. Things get tricky when we go into multi-dimensional arrays. So here we're again defining x2 as a 3 comma 4. Now 3 comma 4 is tricky to sort of comprehend. So you can think of it as row comma column, like 3 rows and 4 columns. It becomes easy to visualize that way. So now we'll try to get I'll try to print x2 first. So this is what x2 looks like. 3 rows and 4 columns. So we'll try to get the first 2 rows of this array and then the first 3 columns. Now how the notation works is like row comma column, right? So you want the first 2 rows, just write 2 here, and then you want the first 3 columns, just write 3 here. Right, sorry. Yeah. So you have the first 2 rows here and then the first 3 columns. If anyone has a doubt, you can sort of interrupt me in the middle. No issues with that. Yeah, so we have the first 2 rows and then the first 3 columns. As you can see, this is the first 2 rows and the first 3 columns, like right here. So similarly, accessing like rows, and this is pretty easy. So if we want to access the first column or first row of x2, we'll just use this notation. So it's the row comma column notation. If we put a colon here, it means that we'll get all the rows, and if we put a colon here as well, it means we'll get all the columns as well. Now what if we want to reshape this array into something else? So we'll use the reshape function for that. Now I've defined a basic like 10 element array called grid, right? It's like 1 to 9 numbers, and so this is basically like if you look at the shape is 9 comma, like this is the default way it defines the shape. You might think that it's like it is one dimensional, but this is how it shows you the shape. So if we want to reshape it into, let's just say a 3 comma 3 cross 3 matrix, right? Because it's the only way we can reshape it. We can't reshape a 9 element thing into 3 cross 4 because that will throw an error. I'll show you that later. So we'll try to reshape this to 3 comma 3, right? So as you can see, this is a 3 comma 3 matrix that we have here, and it has been reshaped. Now if we try to, let's just say, reshape it into a 3 comma 4 matrix, it will throw an error because it's simply not a compatible shape. If you multiply 3 by 4, you get 12 elements. We don't have 12 elements here, right? Now moving on. Yeah, so this is like again just the same example. If you want to make it a row vector, or if you want to make it a column vector, you can do that as well. So 1 comma 3 means like 1 row and 3 columns. So it's like, it looks like this, and then 3 rows and 1 column, it ends up looking like this. Next, we'll move on to some basic universal functions that NumPy has. All of them are obviously optimized. And one weird thing that you'll notice here is that if you look at x, it looks like this, right? Now, if we add 5 to x, what happened? Like, normally you would expect something like, maybe it gets added to one array, but something called broadcasting happens here. We'll get into that later. So this is basically all the basic computations you can perform, like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, floor division. And yeah, so now we'll try to take the dot product of two arrays. Now A is this array. I'll show you the array here. And these are two arrays, A and B. Now, as you can see, both of them have the same shape, 2, 3, 2 rows, 3 columns, 2 rows, 3 columns. Now, I think we sort of know enough maths to know that we can't multiply these matrices together because they have the same shape. Their shapes are not compatible. So if we try to take the dot product here, it will throw us an error because they're not aligned. Their dimensions are simply not compatible for dot product. So what should we do here? We should probably take the transpose of the second matrix, which is B. This is B. So now the way to take a transpose is very simple. We just write B equals B dot capital T. That way we'll have the transpose. So A looks like this, B looks like this. This is B transpose. And now we can easily take the dot product. And there we have it. Some other useful functions could be like, you could take the absolute value of the array. So it will -2 will become 2, -1 will become 1. And some trigonometric functions as well, like sine, cos, tan. Although these aren't used that often, but they're there if you want to use them. Exponential and logarithms, like with base specified, these can be pretty useful at times. So they're also there. Now, usually we take the mean of the entire array, but what if we want to take the mean along a particular axis of a multidimensional array? Now, what I mean by axis is this. So two axes are defined in a 2D array. At the axis 0 looks something like this along the columns, and the axis 1 looks something like this along the rows. This is something that would be better memorized, or like it is not like doesn't. It can be intuitive as well, but like you should just memorize that axis 0 is the columns and axis 1 is the rows. So let's just say if we want to take okay, so this is an array M. Okay, just a random 3x4 array. What if we want to find the maximum element along axis 0 and axis 1? So there's a function in NumPy for that, and it works something like this. So we have this, let's just say we want to find the max along axis 0, right? So we have this, and it's given us 8, 6, 5, 3. Now if we look at this array here, we can see that, wait, so axis 0 is rows, axis 0 is columns, right? So it should give us the maximum sum in every column of the array. And as you can see, the maximum column in this is 8, in this it's 6, in this it's 5, and this it's 3. And we have 8, 6, 5, 3. So this is pretty useful. This can be pretty useful at times. And the similar way, we can try to take the min on axis 1. Axis 1 is again the rows. So, the min of this row is 2. The min of this row is 1. The min of this row is again 1. And we have 2, 1, 1 here. So perfect. Now these are some functions that you might be using, like sum, product, mean, standard deviation, and weight. These are usually used in statistical analysis. Like we'll be using them further. Argmin and argmax are surprisingly used a lot, and the rest of them are not used as much. Now I think we're coming to the end of NumPy, the basics at least. This is the most tricky concept there is probably in NumPy. A lot of discussion and debate has been happening that this should probably be changed because it's simply too complicated and the rules are redundant, so to speak. But here we have two arrays, and wait, yeah. Two arrays A and B. Now, if we were to add these arrays, they would simply get added, right? Like 0 plus 5 and 1 plus 2 and 2 plus 5. So the addition here is pretty simple. Like there's nothing interesting about it. But what if we were to add a single element to the first array? What do you think will happen if we add 5 to this? Will it get added to only the first element, only the second element, or only the third element? Or will it get added to all the elements? Now it will get added to all the elements, and we'll see why that happens. You can in an intuitive way, you can think of it like this. If you want to add 5 to this array, what happens is NumPy interprets it as a 1 comma 5 shaped array to make it compatible with the shape of this. The shape of A is 3 comma, right? So it becomes 1 comma 3, and then this also becomes 1 comma 5. We'll see how that happens in a bit. So it said here that we can basically think of it like 5 sort of duplicates itself into an array 5 comma 5 comma 5, so that we can add it to this A, right? Because if you add this to this, it's the shapes are compatible, it can be added. And this is what is broadcasting. Now these are some rules of broadcasting. Do we have time for this, or like
Manav,
Pradyumn,
wrap up as quick as you can.
this is the last thing? Like maybe we can then
Yeah,
look at it in
just
some other session.
do this. Just show them the documentation and show them how to navigate through it.
Yeah. So this is, I think this is the last section anyway. This is a little tricky, so it might take some time. We don't have enough time, unfortunately. So we'll maybe get to that a bit
We
later.
will
But yeah, these
send
were
you some useful resources for broadcasting. It's a very important concept, so
yeah.
don't miss that.
Yeah, okay. So we'll move on to the labs then. Before we move on to that, the libraries are like, I mean, even we don't remember all the syntax. So it's pretty easy to like, if you sort of if you're going through a tough time, just Google it, simply Google it. And there's this beautiful thing called NumPy documentation here, which literally has the guide to anything and everything related to NumPy. And even if you're having trouble, like, normally essay अगर आ रही है, so you can basically, like, even if you do this a dot shape, right, just type a question mark in front of it, and you'll find what it's used for. Like, you'll get the entire doc string, like if no argument is given, blah blah blah, and stuff like that. So it's pretty useful that way.
Or just press the shift tab. That will also do the same.
Yeah, that also works. I think, yeah, that also works. Yeah. So I think this is it for NumPy, and the broadcasting will maybe cover in some other session, or we'll give a good.
Sum up the essence, NumPy stands for numerical Python, right? So it is mainly used for all the numerical computation because it's way faster than those performing those operations on lists itself.
Yeah, so he's saying that is it used just to handle arrays? In in a nutshell, maybe yes, like multiple dimensions, like multiple dimensional arrays or matrices, so to speak. Yeah, it's basically that, like just to sort of make the entire process faster. So now we'll move on to the lab, which most of you must have done. Okay, what is, so sorry. Okay, भाई मैं भी स्टूडेंट ही हूँ ऐसा मत बोल. तो yeah, this was the lab. This is the first part of the lab. We have 2 more parts to cover, so I'll just run through this. Now, yeah, so the first question was to load the CSV. Now we can use the pandas.read CSV function. Now, before you even enter this sort of territory of, opening the data and putting it into a data frame, just look at the CSV file. Like, Excel helps a lot. So here we can see that country is like 13 different countries they rakhi hai: France, Spain, Germany. Age is okay all over the place, but in some places age is not given, which means it's a missing value. Now salary is given. It's again, we can see some missing values here, and purchased is categorical, and category of purchase is price category of purchase is then again categorical. So we can see that this is a categorical column, this is a numerical column, this is again a numerical column, and the other two are categorical as well. Now we'll see in a bit how price category of purchase is categorical. So the first question says to read the CSV file using pandas read CSV function. Now we don't have time to sort of introduce pandas, so just bear with us. This is the basic function that you use to read CSVs. There are other functions as well. You can read anything from it. You can read CSV, Excel, and like a whole lot of other things. But CSV is the most popularly used format, so we're using that. Now we'll just sort of show what DF is. Okay, I'll try to run it again. Wait. Yeah. So it's basically showing us the CSV file, including the missing values, which is shown as nan or not a number. And the first question was classify columns into 2 groups, numerical and categorical, and print column name for each group. So as I mentioned before, country is categorical, age is numerical, salary is numerical, purchased and price category of purchase is then again numerical. So we have sort of classified them into categorical and numerical. Now, the next task was to print the first 10 rows after handling the missing values. Now, if we do this, it will show an error. So what we should do is use df.head. Head is basically the top of the sort of the top of the whole table. And if we use tail, we can get the bottom 10 elements. So it's like head and tail. It's pretty intuitive. So if you want to get the top 10 elements, just use df.head 10. And the next question was to sort of handle the missing values. Now we have sort of added a helpful link in this where you can sort of learn how to handle missing values. This is a pretty interesting article. It's pretty advanced in the sense that it has a lot of other stuff as well. So the first intuition is कि यार delete ही कर दो. We don't want missing values, just delete them. And pros and cons are given here. The second one is replace them with mean, median, mode. Now we'll see how this is better in this case because there's a condition on this that if 70 to 75% of the values in the column are missing, we should delete the rows, which is obviously not the case here, as you can see. Like very few of these values are missing. Like इसमें सिर्फ only 2 values are missing. इसमें only 3 values are missing. So the next option is replacing them with mean, median, or mode. So what we'll do is we'll try to replace them with mean. And so we use the df.replace function here. Now age में missing value थी and salary में भी थी. So we'll try to do both of them separately. Now df.replace basically uses, if you press shift tab, it uses the value that you want to replace, the value that you want to replace it with, and like in place is basically this beautiful thing that if you don't set it to true, like the data frame won't be changed, like it will still remain like this. If we set it, wait, I'll show you. If we set it to false, right, so df will still have missing values, the age section. But if we set it to true, the data frame will be permanently changed and the missing values will be filled. Beautiful. Now we'll do the same with salary. Like it has a few missing values as we can see, NaN values. Same code, same thing. We're just filling them with the mean of the column itself. So that's why we're using df salary.mean. This is the salary column. So yeah, and it is as you can see, the NaN values are filled. And the next question was to one hot encode the categorical data. I'm so sorry for this. This is sort of misleading because abhi one hot encode ki zarurat nahi hai hame, to be very honest. But what I meant to say was basically convert them into a useful format. Like, we'll eventually see that machine learning algorithms can't understand this. They can't understand France. They can't understand Spain. We need to convert this into numbers and numbers that make sense, that the algorithm can sort of interpret well. Otherwise, like, it just simply won't work. So what we're using here is from the sklearn, yet another library, yet another thing. Like this is, if you haven't seen it before, I'm sorry, you just have to bear with us. And this is like basically scikit-learn. We'll be using it a lot, so it is something that you should sort of see. Although you can learn it on the go, it's not that big of a deal. So we use the label encoder function here. What it does is it basically fits to a particular column. Like let's just say it fits to this country column and sees कि अच्छा, it sort of figures out on its own कि यहाँ पे 3 countries दिख रही हैं मेरे को. I can see 3 countries: France, Spain, and Germany. So when we do le.fit, it basically figures that out. And when we do le.transform, it transforms that column to the suitable format, so to speak. So we'll just run both of them. Yeah. And I have actually initially used fit transform, which does both of them simultaneously. So as you can see, we have converted the countries to numbers here. Beautiful. And like all thanks to this library. So, but as you know, this can't be interpreted well by a machine learning algorithm. I mean, I think Vipul sir will be able to tell us why, because sir, can you tell us why this can't be used by algorithms?
Algorithms. Why? So we can say like if you look into the we'll see in the course as well. If you are using some tree-based architectures, then this is good enough for the algorithm. We do not need to worry. But if we are using linear regression or kind of other classification methods, which is based on the weight, in that case, what will happen? So this value, this particular country value. So if you multiply, so you can say this is your x of 0 value, then this will become x of 0, 0, then it will become x of 0, 1, x of 0, 2, and so on, the next value. So whatever value is 2, it will make more impact then the value 1. Either you will do any kind of normalization, then also impact will remain same. So that's why we cannot directly use in linear regression, or you can say in logistic regression, all those kind of places. But there is another variety of algorithm, that is tree based architecture. For that, these values is not a problem, you can.
Okay, sir. So as the professor said, now I'm just assuming that if we are using linear or logistic regression, you should know what to do. Like, it's pretty useful. So we'll use this thing from pandas, which is called get dummies. So what it does is, country column has 3 countries, right? Like Spain, France, and Germany. So instead of doing a 0, 2, or 1, it will basically create 3 different columns, which will have binary values. So like, I'll just try to show you how it looks. So what it did was, it basically used the 3 countries, Spain, France, and Germany, and made 3 columns. So let's just say 0 is Spain, 1 is France, and 2 is Germany. So 1 means that this is Germany, 0 means that it's not Germany. And similarly, we can sort of convert this 0, 1, 2, 3 into 3 different columns. If anyone, and similarly, we'll do the same thing with the purchased column. Although the categories are only 2, so it will simply convert it into a binary 0 or a 1, a yes or a no. So the code remains the same. We'll just drop this. Yeah. We'll use label encoder on purchased, like this column purchased right here, so that the no and the yes will be converted to a 0 and a 1. And this is the code. Again, we're using label encoder, and I'm using fit transform this time because वो fit और transform दोनों ही कर देता है एक बारी में. Unlike previously where we fit it first and then we transformed it, it can simply do it in one go. It helps. So this is what DF looks like right now. Now this looks like something I would use for an algorithm. This has started to look like something I could feed to a machine learning algorithm. But another problem with this is like the last question, which is of this subsection, is that age and salary. Now age is usually between 0 and 100. Salary can be in
Manav,
thousands. Yes.
actually, I have a doubt.
Yes, bro.
Why can't we skip the that label encoder step? Because why can't we directly do the dummies without the label encoder step?
Yeah, you can do that. I just did that to like sort of make you guys understand, because if we are using something like a decision tree, which we will study later, it's an algorithm which can use this directly, like 0, 1, 2, 3. We only did get dummies because of lower algorithms or like poor algorithms like linear regression or logistic regression. That's why I showed both of them. Usually we leave it here because we mostly use decision trees, but just in case you have to use linear regression or logistic regression, you have to do get dummies. Like, there is no other option. Is that fine?
Yes.
Okay. So this is our last question now, that age and salary. So something like linear regression will get confused because it looks at magnitude. Now, why am I saying magnitude? Because as the derivation shows, it calculates the distance, right, from every point, like to sort of fit the line. So now that distance will sort of get confused. Our age is between 0 and 100 and salary is like in thousands. In order to not confuse the algorithm, we will bring them down to the same level. So for that, we use min-max scaler for that. Now, you can use a library for this. Again, another library, sklearn, and using pre-processing, you can directly use min-max scaler. But if you don't want to do this, you can actually do it like just do it normally, where you get like, so this is a column, right? What you will do is you will take every element, subtract the minimum from that element, and then divide it by the difference of the maximum and the minimum. I don't have enough time to explain it, but it basically gets the values between 0 and 1. How this happens is something you should sort of figure out. Like, just Google it, like how this happens. This is a very basic formula. So x is the element, and then we take the minimum of the column and then divide it by the maximum minus minimum. If you do this for every element, you'll realize that they sort of fall in between 0 and 1, and it's easier to interpret it for the algorithm. And I think we're done with this part. Now Pradyum will take over and explain his part, which is to do with
just to add on
images.
last point, as Manav said that we have to scale all the values between 0 and 1. If you have time, please search why we do that. Like, search for all possible reasons, because there's a lot to it than we could cover in this lecture.
Yes, like if we had enough time, we would have done difference between normalization and standardization, why we do it and which one should be preferred, or like why we normalize things, we standardize things in machine learning, and deep learning में normalization अच्छा चलता है, so we could have done that. But now I'll hand the mic over to
Alright.
virtual mic over to Pradyum.
Alright.